I first started reading Berserk around the time Bloodborne came out in 2015. As someone who's super into Dark Souls, which is heavily influenced by Berserk, I finally dug in so I could make comparisons on my personal YouTube channel. While I'd heard acclaim about the manga and anime before, I wasn't expecting too much. And to be honest, when I first started reading it, I didn't like Berserk at all. I thought Guts was an asshole without much substance, which I'm happy to say I was completely wrong about, and part of why I love the Golden Age Arc of Berserk so much. So that said, what's up guys, I'm Dave Klein, or Dave Control, and today we're going to talk about why Berserk's Golden Age Arc is so damn perfect. There will be spoilers covering the first arc of Berserk, which covers the entirety of the original anime season of Berserk. If you haven't seen the show or read the manga, I highly recommend stopping now, checking it out, and then coming back to this video later. Berserk starts with what's essentially a prelude. We follow Guts as he travels around killing apostles. People have utilized a mysterious behelit in order to become far more powerful demons at the price of a sacrifice of some sort, as well as much of their humanity. The anime and manga differ slightly, with the manga going deeper into this portion of the story. In both of them we meet Guts, who's well-intentioned, but also kind of an asshole. He wields an enormous sword, which, as we find out, is for destroying these apostles. He has a scar on his nose, and for some unknown reason, one of his eyes is permanently closed. Evil spirits follow him wherever he travels thanks to a brand on his neck that bleeds anytime they're nearby. It's clear from the get-go that he has a lot of deep issues, but from my first time reading the manga, it was hard for me to connect with him and want to get into the story as he's an asshole due to this. You might think I'm an idiot, but it took me a moment to realize him having one eye closed was intentional and not the artist, Miura, constantly trying to have him look cool and half grimacing. But this also detached me from Guts at first. A lot of these things about him seem like they were there just for the sake of making him look badass. These are the types of scars you have to earn for a character to be cool. And, well, eventually he does. One of the things I feel the anime missed out on was getting to truly see the members of the God Hand interact with Guts, as it really helps set up part of why I enjoy the Golden Age Arc so much. In the manga, Guts ends up getting summoned into their world, where we find out he has a huge grudge with Griffith, now Femto, who he'd had a bond with in the past. So with all of this in mind, we have a world filled with horrendous demon-like apostles, a man raging against them, and the character of Griffith, who has done something so horrible, Guts absolutely hates him. We don't know what it is, why Guts is the way he is, or why the world has these monsters. And with all of that, we're suddenly taken far into the past, and into the entirety of Season 1 of the Berserk anime, the Golden Age Arc. In the manga, which I'll be referencing a little more as it's the way I first experienced Berserk, we transport to the very beginning, Guts having been born out of his dead and hung mother, amongst corpses of other hung victims. Hence, he receives his name, Guts. And from there, he only suffers misfortune after misfortune as he's raised by Gambino and their mercenary troupe. This includes his foster mother dying when he's 3 and Gambino taking it out on him, even giving Guts the scar he has on his nose at the age of 6. Gus is constantly wielding a sword far too big for him, and he's taught how to fight way too young. And despite fighting well, is further abused when Gambino allows Donovan, another merc, to rape Guts for a price. This culminates in Gambino trying to kill Guts, who's still a child, and has to fend for his life against his own father figure, eventually murdering him in self-defense. As Guts becomes a teenager, we see he's become an incredible warrior and one of the best. He's angry, living day to day, and we can see how his messed up childhood has affected him with his extreme aversion to anyone touching him. This is when he runs into Griffith, the character we know from prior to the Golden Age Arc, who's part of the God Hand, a demon, and Guts absolutely hates. And yet, here, Griffith is not only normal, but charismatic, and the leader of a troop of mercenaries named the Band of the Hawk. But before we get into that, I want to point out an important detail. Throughout all of this, we haven't seen another apostle. It's a stark contrast to the world we inhabited at the beginning of Berserk. We're also already getting a deep understanding of Guts and why he is the way he is. At this point, it's already easy to be sympathetic towards him due to his horrendous childhood, and yet part of what makes the Golden Age Arc so strong is everything that follows, which completely fleshes out the characters of Guts and Griffith. After losing a duel with Griffith, Guts is forced into joining the Band of the Hawk to serve under Griffith. The two end up forming a fast friendship, and Guts quickly becomes Griffith's right-hand man and the person who's most capable of raising Griffith to his aspirations. Which brings us directly into Griffith's character. Griffith, as we eventually find out, was a commoner in a medieval class system who grew up idolizing castles and the lives of nobles. In a world where only noble blood can rule and commoners can't rise up, Griffith does everything he can to achieve his dream of becoming a king and ruling from a castle. This is no small task, and we see both the lengths Griffith will go to and how much it affects his character. Taking advantage of the current 100 Years' War, he forms a band of mercenaries to slowly rise up in the ranks. His charisma attracts powerful young warriors who band together with his cause for the hope of rising up with him. He's a positive role model, even saving Casca, a girl who's sold into slavery and about to be raped for no purpose other than it's the right thing to do. And you have to remember, this is a dark medieval world ruled by an upper class where this is not only commonplace, but everyone turns a blind eye. It's abnormal and noble for Griffith to perform such an act. But as Griffith is naturally kind-hearted, we see just how much the world and his aspirations begin to shape him. He's deeply hurt when a young child who joins his cause is killed in battle, realizing his dreams could have been what caused the child's death. This causes Griffith to sleep with an older rich man for money to support his troops in order to avoid as many deaths and speed up the process of reaching his dreams. We learn how deeply the path to his dreams are internally hurting him as he witnesses countless soldiers dying for his cause and turns to whoring himself out for money, but he also learns to justify himself and justify his actions. The soldiers willingly die for his dreams, just as he willingly slept with the older man to speed up the path to his aspirations. Throughout the Golden Age arc, we witness the slow growth of Griffith's dreams coming to fruition as he wins battle after battle and becomes the favorite of the King of Midland. He's knighted by the king and takes his first step towards becoming a noble, eventually becomes one of the most popular people in Midland after defeating Tudor in a decisive battle to regain a major stronghold and ending the 100 Years' War. He's showered in praise by nobles and commoners alike and rewarded with the title of White Phoenix General. As his dream grows to fruition, so too does the extent of what he'll do to achieve his dreams. Whereas at first he would only kill soldiers in battle, he begins sending Guts on missions to assassinate political enemies of his. This starts simple enough, with Guts killing Julius in retaliation to Julius attempting to murder Griffith. But it grows to murdering every single noble who dislikes him and stands in his way by burning them alive. It's clear that the lengths to which he'll go to achieve his dreams continues to grow, and his empathy slowly wavers. Meanwhile, Guts has a positive growth, and in joining the Band of the Hawk, once again regains his humanity. He finds a group of people who he can connect with, and who don't treat him like garbage. Unlike Gambino, Griffith treats Guts like a prized possession, giving him a kinship he'd never experienced. The Band of the Hawk become genuine friends with him, and he once again learns how to care about others instead of just himself. As opposed to living day by day, fighting to stay alive as it's all he knows, he starts to want to protect the group. He actually knows all of the different soldiers who they fight with and wants to see all of their dreams come to light. And while he realizes he's not fighting for himself, outside of his own joy of fighting, he grows to care about those around him. It's a true transformation from the angry and scarred youth we start with. And it's these sorts of character arcs that make the Golden Age arc so incredible. You truly learn the different characters' perspectives and grow to understand them. Meanwhile, because we've seen the beginning of the story, which starts far ahead of the Golden Age arc, you're constantly on guard because something horrible is going to happen. It's not clear what it is, but every time something goes bad for the Band of the Hawk, or might go bad for the Band of the Hawk, it's always there that this could be the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's like reading a ticking time bomb. You know something bad is going to happen, and in a weird way, this actually makes reading more enjoyable, as every bad moment is actually tense. In the anime, it's referenced before the Golden Age arc starts that time has been dark ever since Griffith became king. However, in the manga, we learn about the Behelit. The Behelit being an artifact that can be used to summon the God Hand and become one of the crazy apostles we see at the beginning of the story. It's activated when someone is in deep despair, and they then must sacrifice someone close to them in order to become a demon. Not only that, but Griffith, now called Femto, has sacrificed Gust. And that's especially important as early on we find out that Griffith has a behelit. So you really never know when something bad might happen that will cause this to activate and for him to fall into despair. We also continually see warning signs as the story progresses. And one of the few times we do see a horrible monster similar to the start of the story is Nosferatu Zod. Zod sees Griffith's behelit, calls it the egg of the Emperor, and gives Guts a warning telling him, if you call yourself a friend of that man, be prepared. For when that man's dreams come crashing down, you will face your death. A death you cannot escape. And as things reach their zenith for Griffith and the Band of the Hawk, it's all swiftly taken away in their major downfall. Guts, who's finally grown as a character, decides to leave the Band of the Hawk now that they've won the war. Meanwhile, he and a commander for the Band of the Hawk, Casca, had become romantically interested. Casca, who had idolized Griffith and had practically worshipped him, has also grown through her interest in Guts to not subserviently do everything Griffith says. And when Guts does leave the Band of the Hawk, Griffith, having suffered losing something he considered his, attempts to take yet another shortcut to becoming king, and the one that finally gets him. He breaks into the princess's room, who is infatuated with him, and is subsequently caught by a maid and then guards. Griffith then losing everything he holds dear. Despite not being involved, the Band of the Hawk are stripped of their titles and hunted down by the king's soldiers. Griffith is thrown into the deepest cell of a dungeon and tortured to near death with his tongue being cut out and his limbs irreparably broken. Even here, we get a tease of maybe this is the moment, maybe this is his downfall. How much further can one drop than this? But it's still not enough. When Griffith is finally rescued, Griffith watches as the woman who worshipped him is now romantically involved with Guts. The band he formed considers Guts their leader, and he no longer has anything, a shell of a human being with his dream completely destroyed. In a way, it's harder when you're at the top because there's so much to lose. When you have nothing and nothing matters, like Guts at the beginning of the story, the only place you have to go is up. And yet here we have the polar opposite. Griffith, who has worked his way up and was a shining star, losing it all, crashing down and losing every single thing he held dear. With limbs damaged and tongue cut out, he has no way to return. He has no way to even regain what he's lost. And it's here, at rock bottom, he attempts to commit suicide. Between failing at even this and his resentment towards Guts, he finally summons the Eclipse with his Crimson Behelit. This event marking the end of the Golden Age. Griffith summons the world of apostles and the Godhand, and completing out his arc of sacrificing those around him to achieve his dreams, sacrifices the entirety of the Band of the Hawk, including Guts and Casca. The reborn Griffith, now Femto, forces Guts to watch as he rapes Casca. Guts, going insane, cuts off his own arm that's trapping him in order to reach Casca and prevent it, before being pinned down and still forced to watch as his eye is gouged out. And with all of that, that's where we end the Golden Age arc. It's an arc where we get true character development and resolutions through our two major characters of Guts and Griffith. Not only that, but the world itself is fleshed out as we witness a war and battles being fought, as well as political intrigue with Griffith attempting to rise to the top. Like Guts, we learn to care about all of the friends he makes in the Band of the Hawk, and care about his relationship with Casca, only to witness it all ripped out and destroyed right before his very eyes by Griffith. By the end of the arc, I not only liked the character of Guts, a character who I completely disliked when I first started reading the manga, but was able to sympathize with him and completely understand why he acts the way he does when you first start reading or watching Berserk. Those scars I complained about at first weren't there for show, his character earned those, and they more so reflect everything going on within him. And Griffith is a fleshed out villain whose motivation you can not only understand, but you can see where he's coming from and how it evolves over time. The point is, there are layers to the various characters you meet, whether they be our main cast or side characters, and these layers have a deep impact on the story and flesh out the world. And everything else about Berserk as a whole, such as its beautiful artwork and battles, are all a part of the Golden Age arc as well. But it's the strength of these two compelling characters interacting and growing or falling over time that makes this story. While I enjoy Berserk as a whole and the other arcs contained within it so far, for me, none have held the significance of the Golden Age arc. It's the rock that carries the rest of the show and is founded upon, and the reason we care for all the characters and what's to come so much. And on a personal level, this arc managed to turn a story I admittedly didn't like at all when I first started into my favorite manga series. And that is why the Golden Age arc is so damn perfect. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was much longer than what we usually do, but we thought it would be fun to try making a true passion piece. I'm obviously a huge fan of Berserk, and would love to know what your favorite arc is and why. So feel free to hit me up on Twitter or in the comments, as I'm always down to talk some Berserk. If you guys did enjoy it, make sure to check out our other content, including anime reviews or a daily news show. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.